One of the founders of Venmo have a new app, and he decided to launch a meme coin for it. Overnight, it soared to a $250 million market cap, but he didn't have a plan for it, so it's now crashed 96% and is just $10 million. So I met with Iqram and Sam from JellyJelly, an app that's sort of looking to be TikTok but for podcasters. We talk about why they thought it was a good idea to launch a meme coin in the first place, how they're separating the degeneracy of crypto from their product, and how they plan to use their token Jelly in the future. After that token completely exploded, how much did you see your signups improve?
I think we got 10,000 in a day.
How do you get the value of crypto without causing these like games to be played on top of it?
I wasn't even paying attention to the charts.
Iqram and Sam from JellyJelly, thank you so much for joining me. How are you guys today?
Keep on keeping on. Pretty good.
Doing amazing. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, well, so you guys are making sort of a TikTok for podcasters called JellyJelly. You go in there, you record a podcast, it clips it up into a bunch of snackable bites, and you can export it to the JellyJelly app as well as to other social medias. It sounds like a genuinely exciting project that I'm going to be watching over the coming weeks, months, and years. But please, I need to understand, why did you create a Solana token alongside it? Why did you feel like that was a necessary move?
I'll jump in on that. I mean, again, Iqram, is the CEO of JellyJelly and, the ex, co-founder of Venmo. And, I've been collaborating with him, trying to figure out, what app to build and helping support that for a while now. And I've also obviously been very deep in the Solana ecosystem since the beginning. I was an investor since before it was called Solana. And so, it's kind of natural that given the payments, bank angles that Iqram has, from a background perspective and what's going on in crypto and how those things intersect, it's always been, from my perspective, part of the conversation, which is what is the future of intersecting social media, right, with crypto? Like, this is not a new idea, right? And, I actually, we've been messing with it, we've been talking about it. I would say that we're both very tinker-oriented people. Right? Like, that's how we learn. That's how we build. So, it's funny. I mean, some people think there's some like deep, grand secret plan to all of this that we have filed away in our back pockets. And like, I think the reality is like, it's much more, we know these things intersect. We had some really good ideas floating around and flowing in a conversation about how they could intersect and how they could work together and what they would look like. And you're like, you know what? The best way to learn is to do. Right. And so like, let's put it out there and then let the community help us figure it out. Right. Which they have. Right. And so I'm really excited. I mean, I think this has been a period of obviously craziness. The biggest challenge with building serious things in crypto right now is that there are lots of serious things to build, but then there's also this like meta PvP game going on, which is wild, right? And so you kind of have to separate out the PvP game, right, from what you're trying to build for the long term and the long term, utility you're trying to build on chain. And so that's kind of my take on this. And like, again, I think it's been a really, from my perspective, a great wild exploration, much like early days of Venmo, much like a lot of the startups I've been in that kind of had a moment in different ways. And we have a really solid plan that Iqram's been working on and the team's been working on about how to take all this energy and kind of accelerate the key things, very much informed by the community. So that's my take.
That's one of the elements that I'm interested here, is that PvP, meme coin, degenerate trading element, and how you separate that from the product. I guess, could you walk me through what those conversations were prior to launching the token? What were you guys thinking with the token? What did you think was going to happen?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot of things. I mean, I'll jump in and Iqram could, but it's a lot of things that we've said a bunch, right, to different communities, which is, look, tipping is clearly a really interesting concept, right? How do you tip back and forth globally, right? Like, what does it mean? How do you think about giving people incentives to like effectively rank a feed better, right? So it's not just based on like algorithmically who gets the most clicks, but maybe it's, Elon, I've been joking recently that like Elon bought Twitter and basically has house ads on it, right? Everything is Elon now. Like, why wouldn't we let other people say, like, if we're really committed to JellyJelly, like we can effectively, if we hold for a long time and hold a lot of it, or we're sent a lot of it out of tips, or there's like all sorts of mechanisms you can build to kind of help get people the distribution for the people that are most engaged. So I think there's like a bunch of ideas like that all make sense, right? And by the way, a lot of them are not brand new. Like, these are ideas that people have thought about before. But what we've seen in like social Web3, so to speak, is what I've seen at least is like a lot of people try to go out and they're like, okay, we have some crypto spin on an old media format. Right? They're saying, okay, we're going to take Twitter, we're going to make it crypto Twitter, right? And it's like not a new format. It's not a new or anything interesting. I think that's extremely hard to do. I think what you need is like the combination of a new format and a new app coupled with new patterns that you can build from crypto and from things like what you can do now actually practically on chain with Solana. So I'm super excited about these things intersecting, and I think those are there's no, again, as I keep saying, Ryan, like there's no secret plan. Like we were pretty transparent about like what we thought the intersections are, and we still think they are. And the only difference now is that Iqram, I think, in the team, from my perspective, is way farther along in terms of actually delivering them.
Iqram, what was your sort of perspective on this when you were coming into launching the token?
I mean, I came in with full excitement. I mean, look, you got to give credit. I got to give credit when credit's due. Sam is, I would say, one of the reasons you work with Sam as an investor is because he's always looking ahead, and also very, very much able to basically off of a quick idea, bring it from idea to execution like instantly. And that's what you love when you're like in the early stage of the startup. So look, a lot of Venmo was built through very, very rapid iteration. So Sam on one of our jellies actually was like, hey, look, I've been researching this whole meme coin world. It's very interesting. It's kind of crazy. What if we launched a coin? That's how I came into the jelly. And we just do this every week. We've been building jelly on a series of weekly meetings for the past year. And in our, weekly meeting 2 weeks ago, Sam brought up this idea of like, look, we have to figure out ways to monetize the Jelly app. I'm over here tinkering with Apple Pay and like figuring out how, to bring commerce into the app. Sam starts talking about the meme coin. He invited his friend Dave into the chat. And it was one of those energetic, we're like in the studio making a hit moments. That's kind of how it felt. Like, and you can't like sometimes when you cut what you cut right there and then is the hit. And then, we put it out. It's like, imagine you're in a studio, you make a song, you put it out, all of a sudden, like, people respond to it. That's what happened with the meme coin launch. And in the back of our heads, look, one of the things I will say, I think my experience at Venmo has prepared me for this sort of growth, because, I think a lot of people would look at this growth and this rapid growth and be like, oh shit, what do we do here? I'm like, this is the growth we need and kind of the burst that Jelly needed to engage a community into the app. So I was all for it, and we did it. It happened very quickly. It grew much faster than we had expected. But, the next day I got to work. Like literally, I was like, all right, my roadmap is defined now for the next year. I mean, a lot of what we built at Venmo is now applying to like what we're building here. A lot, I'm thinking about it like, we used to use text and money, in a very interesting manner. Now we're just doing a new format of video and a new currency in kind of an interesting manner. And our roadmap is set. It's like from the day we launched the coin to, I wasn't even paying attention to the charts. I know a lot of people pay attention to the charts up and, like watching the ups and downs, but I was like, it's time for us to get to work quickly. So immediately we engaged with Hello Moon to bring them on to build kind of the first MVP of how crypto or how the Jelly coin will integrate into the app. And I actually got a chance to play with the demo yesterday. And I'm pretty excited about it. It's basically like you're going to be able to tip people with the Jelly coin. You're going to be able to showcase your balance, and the amount of time you've held it inside the app. You're going to get badges for proving ownership of the coin. So like the MVP from what we did in that weekly session is coming to life in the next couple of weeks, hopefully. For me, it was like, let's get to work. Like we have an infinite supply of things to do now, and it's the moment you look for at a startup.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a really interesting concept going around at the moment. Sort of, could be one of the first examples of a startup launching and being like, well, how do we find money? How do we find eyes? And meme coins is a great way to send lots of eyes across your project. And in a way, it sort of was a bit of a marketing scheme of a way to get loads of people to come look at your project. And it's really interesting. And I love the metaphor you're using of it. It felt like you're making a smash hit and you just put it out right there and then. But I guess with no major plan of what to do with the token, were you at all worried that you were going to become a one-hit wonder and the main thing that you're known for is just this one token that hits $250 million market cap, which is great, but then since we've seen it retrace, and will we ever see that go back up? Will people know about the evolution of the app?
Look, the way I look at this a little bit is, first of all, Iqram and I have been interneting for a long time, right? And I think there's a lot we've gotten right and a lot that's been challenging. Like we know how to ride these types of things and find the value in them. I also just think you got to be really careful. Like fundamentally, a lot when you launch these meme coins, if you look at like the sociology of it and what's going on, I would argue that price number going up and down, right? That is a PvP game, right? I don't. We have no idea who. Some traders came in and made a bunch of money on this. Some traders came in and lost a bunch of money. They're playing a game that's like against each other. You know, like I haven't sold any, JellyJelly from the dev account, or really, to be even clear, I've never sold a JellyJelly coin at all. I, set it up and called it a day, right? Iqram hasn't either. And like for us, like, yes, we get that. And I think that trading game story sometimes overshadows what you're actually trying to achieve and do, right? I don't actually know in 2025 how to avoid that. Like I've been thinking about that a lot. Like how do you, and I've been messing with ideas around like, how do you get the value of crypto as an infrastructure for building and payments or whatever without causing these like games to be played on top of it, of like marketing on top? It's a really interesting, one version of the world is it doesn't matter. Right? You're like, people will play this game. It's part of the entry into the ecosystem is that because there's so many people who want to play this game, you kind of have to let them, and like it's kind of like a hands-off thing, but then you just go and build, right? Like that's one version. But I agree that it is a challenge for serious builders right now, right? To kind of have to kind of get through that. Now, I will say the one other thing I'll note in terms of like the swings is one thing I experienced, I think we both experienced, is when you do this, because I mean, it's kind of like getting hit by a wave, right? Like there's just like this energy that kind of smashes you in the ocean, right? As you're kind of like out experimenting and building. It's really easy to get sucked in because the people who want you to play the PvP game or help their PvP game, half of them, right, are like, put out news, talking makes price go up. And you're just like, but that's not like we're building. Like we'll talk when we want to talk. We don't want to talk zero because there are people who care what we're up to. But like, if we're spending all of our time on Telegram, maybe that helps you and your PvP game, but it does nothing for what we're trying to build. Actually, it's very distracting. On the flip side, you have a bunch of people who like are shorting the crap out of it, also in this PvP game that they're playing, and they're like hammering you in other ways, and yelling at you on the internet. And I think it's funny, other people I don't know, some people in my world, because I've been on Twitter a long time, and I have now all these other Twitter crypto followers, and like some of them are like really mean, right? And like I have some friends being like, "Are you okay? Like what?" I'm like, guys, it's okay. Like this is the raw internet. Like I remember this from before social media when there was no identity on the internet. Like people, it's crazy. And I think most of these people, that's like the degenerate like ethos. That's like the kind of the shtick. That's how they talk. And so it's just a really interesting thing because I think the price of entry of anything serious into crypto these days, to some that you care about, getting to the right people on, is going to be some sort of, other game being played on top of it. And you kind of just have to keep your heads down and build.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Crypto reminds me so much of the early internet, even just sites like 4chan and stuff like that, with the way people talk, the way people interact with each other. And at times it's crypto's benefit, but other times it definitely is a weakness.
I actually think it's important and native to the community. Like one thing that I think is going on a lot with crypto, and I've said this kind of in other contexts, is it really is this space that kids and retail investors, like people who are just like of the people, are trying to protect and keep institutions out of, right? Like institutions come and they ruin all the fun, right? Because they may even like take like Bitcoin, right? Like Bitcoin, I've held Bitcoin a long time. It's something I believe in. I believed in a long time. Bitcoin is hilariously not volatile right now, right? Like tech stocks are more volatile than Bitcoin, right? Because institutions have come in and they're kind of steadying the ship. And so there's this community in crypto, especially around Solana, that's very interested in volatility and things like that. And so they do all these things, whether it's the pump.fun design or like a super aggro culture or all this stuff, which it might not be like totally conscious. Like I'm not saying someone's saying they'd be like, I'm trying to keep, but that is actually what they're doing. And I think it's quite on purpose. And so people like me and Iqram, which are like very interested and, have some chops, but also like we're kind of like squares, like we're not like 22-year-old degen traders. Like we're trying to build, like it's kind of a thing we have to like be able to skirt that line, right? Of being like acknowledging the community and being in it, but also accepting the fact that like, people, it's a different language. It's meant to keep us out.
Yeah. Iqram, tell me about the two sides of crypto that you've seen during this journey. Like you said, Sam, when you're up, it's like a tidal wave of positivity, and everyone it's the JellyJelly's the future of finance.
I think the funniest sort of negative or whatever bully-like tweet that I saw was, "This guy's got the most punchable face on the planet." I saw that tweet and I couldn't help but laugh.
Yeah.
The thing is, he was watching a jelly while, tweeting that, and I was like, "Hey." I literally responded to him. I was like, "Is this a compliment or what are we talking about?" But the thing is, here's the thing. I feel like for me, I'm kind of in Sam's boat. Like, if you've been in this game a little bit, I think the pre-Y. I think there was like a time where there was like a set of Y Combinator companies in New York City, and I was in one of those. Like, Sam, you probably remember I'm in Life with You.
Yeah, of course.
I was part of that early team, Cortina and I actually. And the stuff I've seen, I think at some point also we made a competitive Twitter as part of like our company. And you're in this sort of underground web. Like, I think a lot of cool things come from like playing in the underground web world, and I'm all for it. Like, even a friend of mine and I, EJ, we would talk about like, what are we doing up at 1 a.m. When we're 21? We're like playing on the internet, like in some weird space, learning about some new mechanism of whatever. The crypto world is kind of like that for me. It's like I feel reinvigorated, especially combining it with this whole AI world. Like, Jelly kind of incorporates both now. Like, you've got AI plus crypto, and maybe there's a new category of company coming from that, which is like, how can we're using AI in the social media sense to make it easier to publish content, and then we're using crypto to help people monetize or play fun monetary games with that. But I've seen some crazy shit. Sometimes I'm not gonna lie, I'll block a person just so I don't see it in my Twitter feed. But out of all of that, I think there's a genuine group of like 2,000 to 3,000 people in our Discord and Telegram communities that genuinely believe in the product. Like, if you open the Jelly feed today, I would say 50% of our user base are people that hold the coin. I open the feed every morning, and even today there was a guy that was like, "Hey," he's literally talking to me on Jelly. "Hey, Iqram, like, can you fix the fact that there are only 15 posts showing on the feed?" So forget all the negative stuff. Like, ultimately the net of all of this is very positive, and it's almost given Jelly a community of people to build with, in a way where I'm like, one, we have to deliver. Two, like, we have people telling us what they want, which is what you look for when you're building a company. Like, that's literally what you look for as you're getting your MVP off the ground. We're still very much a seeded company. We haven't done a Series A or any of that. We haven't matured into that state. But now we have 2,000 to 3,000 people telling us what they want, using the product, in parallel to that, holding a coin that we're going to integrate. So I'm just excited.
How much, after that token completely exploded, how much did you see your signups improve?
Oh, instantly. I think we got 10,000 like in a day.
Wow.
Yeah, it was, and we have a team. I just got a tweet from someone, like, there's a whole marketing team in Asia now, like, presenting JellyJelly. They want to be the first VC to start putting JellyJelly content out. In anticipation of the coin. They want to put like exclusive content out, gated by the Jelly coin, things like that. And we're talking about a team of like 20 people in Asia, just like presenting Jelly to their whole community. So like it brought an incredible amount of awareness, which I have to be honest, like, I never thought of using this whole meme coin world as a form of promotion. And it's starting to become very clear to me. Sam talks about the institutions doing it. Sam is also almost institutionalizing a separate topic that's interesting to investors, with this creator fund. Like, I feel this whole meme coin world will mature into something much, much greater than what we're seeing today. And I think we're playing a very small role in how that gets done.
Yeah. Why do you think creating a meme coin for your project works to get eyes on it?
I mean, again, I'll go back to the whole, like, there's the lolsy trading PvP, and then there's like the fundamental value building, right? In the end of the day, right? And they're overlapping but distinct, right? There's a lot of people who are lolsy traders or interested in lolsy trading, and like, oh shit, this is actually pretty cool. Like, oh, I'm actually interested in that, and they become kind of like, they go down the rabbit hole but it's a way to kind of get in front of a lot of people and then go from there. Now, look, there are downsides to doing it. It's not like a pure upside game, right? And I do think like, I think the most important thing for people to understand when they're doing this is, again, Iqram and I have always been in like weird internet subcultures, and I've learned so much. And I think what you're saying is 100% right. Like the understanding how these things work really, and like people's motivations and how this is it's unbelievably important and sociologically like fascinating, right? And this is like a whole new generation. Like it is very exciting moment. But you kind of just have to look at it as like, why are people doing this? What are they in it for? What are they looking for? What meaning are they trying to find? And it's not one answer, right? There are like people are just like extremely like, I'm playing the PvP game and I want number go up. I want to make money, done, right? There are people that are actually like really interested in innovation and the future and next generation stuff. And like, they're here around this stuff because there's stuff going on, but like there's some other angle. There are people who just really want community. Like this is like, I think one of the deepest things about the internet is like people are really lonely, right? And they want narratives in their lives, right? And they want something to believe in and be a part of. And so I think there's a whole other thing, which is like these narrative assets where, people are building communities and finding each other, through these meme coins for this narrative sharing and engagement and fun and lack of loneliness. And so I just think it's really hard to talk about this as a single thing. Like crypto is a communication platform, and then people do things on top of it. And I think what's happened in the last bunch of years is, especially because there's been so little regulatory clarity on some of the more hardcore financial sides, is like the community and game and fun side of crypto has actually gotten quite developed and robust, right? And like this is what we're trying to figure out and how to harness in a really productive way.
Yeah, on that regulatory sort of blurriness, like none of us really know what is right and what is wrong in this world. Are you at all concerned that there could be legal issues around this? Because I mean, to me, this almost feels like a de facto stock for the company.
But it's definitely not. And I think this is like a really important thing. Like there's a spectrum of this. It's like what seems very clear right now, right, is that at the one extreme, there's like pure narrative, right? Like it's a fun thing. People trade it, whatever. I mean, the reality is the government's come out recently and talked about these as like, these are just collectibles, right? And people are doing this thing. And that feels most completely clear. I think that's why it's the most developed. At the other end, there's actual securities. Like when you say this thing represents ownership in this, right? Like, and that is like clearly regulatorily very challenging and like a million miles away from what we're doing here, and then there's kind of what I call, the utility story, which is what I think the intention and idea is here, and what we've always talked about, which is like, yeah, like there's going to be some usefulness. So we've been very clear with people that like, we don't have details. We're not presenting the exact answer, but like we have these 5 or 6 ways that this thing is going to be useful in this app we're trying to build, which by the way is a startup and it's super small, but it's certainly not a real world asset in any way, shape or form, right? It's this narrative, right, that we've considered with kind of some ideas on how, yeah, if you hold it, it's a useful collectible to have. I'm comfortable with that. I mean, like, look, I have not sold any and I won't, because I do think, forget even legality, it's just skeezy, right? Is like my basic view of it. Like, it's not the point, right? And so my basic view is like, setting aside like, whether it would be formally legal for me to like sell some JellyJelly or something, it's just not worth it. Like our reputation is worth a lot more than that. And like, it's also like, we're not skeezy people, right?
Could it not be a good like funding tool for the project? And you've seen that some of these AI projects sell their tokens to fund their development.
My personal take is, right? There is probably a way to do it, right? And I mean, trust me and my friends and people I work with have been thinking really long and hard about how to think of that, because the idea of like a community-driven asset you could own is. But the lack of regulatory clarity is really difficult if you're going to call it an asset or any sort of ownership meaningfully, or at all. And then here's the other problem is like the PvP game that ends up dominating how the trading goes on this is like deeply zero sum, right? Like someone wins and someone loses. It's like money just changes hands back and forth. Now you can't stop people from playing that game, nor would you. I mean, it's their prerogative. Like So, but I'd say on the flip side, it's like the kind of like, oh, we're going to fund this project based on the PvP game we're going to launch, or effectively like create a thing for people to play this game with. That's coming out of someone's pocket in a zero sum way. And I just don't think that feels great, if that makes sense. Now, again, I'm really open that down the line there are better ways to do this, right? Like we're still at like a very early generation of this, and like you better believe I have ideas on what that might look like if regulatory clarity came, right? But for now, it just feels to me like I feel very comfortable with this. Like, look, we're not selling anything; it's a collectible. We put it out. People are excited about it. They're going to do what they're going to do with the price. We do have some reason we're putting it out that fits alongside the startup we're building, and like what you can do with it inside the app. That feels good to me.
Yeah, let's get onto that utility. I'm interested. Obviously, you said at the beginning you sort of had some vague ideas, but nothing concrete. Has that developed since you've launched the token? And if so, what sort of utility are we looking to add?
Yeah, it's developed very rapidly and swiftly. So, like I said, we've partnered up with Hello Moon. They work with over 1,000 projects, some big, some small, some that look just like us, and they're going to be integrating a couple things into Jelly ASAP as soon as possible. In fact, I had my hands on it yesterday for the first time. The first thing is the first thing that we're building into the app is the ability to prove and verify ownership of the coin. And then along that will come how much of the coin you own, because we'll know your wallet address, and then we'll also know how long you've held it. Once you do that, you get a little Jelly coin badge that goes on your profile. And a quick iteration after that is you'll see the Jelly badge on your jellies as well too. That's being built as we speak. And then in addition to that is a very simple wallet mechanism for the Jelly coin. Currently, you have to have acquired the coin somewhere else. You can't do it from within our app. But at the MVP level, you'll be able to pull in Jelly coin into your balance, into your sort of your Jelly coin wallet balance inside the app. And then you can use that to tip people that make jellies. And you'll be able to use it to receive that. And then you could also send that to an external wallet if you want. So that will be built. I play with it. I don't want to put any hard deadlines in place because, as you know, we're rapidly iterating. But as soon as we have clarity on when we can announce, and maybe I can even give you a little demo of that before it goes live, just so you could get a sense and let your community know. But like that's been in my hands as of last night, and we're just iterating on it.
Yeah, that's really interesting. For a bit of context for listeners, Telegram's a great example of that's a messaging app similar to WhatsApp that they have their own native wallet inside the app. Is that the sort of thing that we're talking about here? That it's a native wallet inside the app. It's not like or is it just sort of like Phantom that's connecting?
No, it's a native wallet. So every Jelly account holder, moving forward, will have a Jelly coin wallet associated with it, whether there's anything in it or not. And then that's just an address you can use within the Jelly ecosystem. And then you could obviously send it to your Phantom or your Coinbase wallet or whatever. I use Magic Eden sometimes. That's how that works.
I'm really interested about how this sort of tipping economy will then mature as the app matures. Obviously, in this earlier phase, it won't be what you want it to be at the end phase. But what do you think that future looks like with JellyJelly and its tip system?
I mean, some things I'm excited about, like even from our time at Venmo. One of the things on Venmo we exposed when we had a public feed. So I think it'll be very interesting to see how tips can represent popular jellies, and like maybe that becomes a feat. Like the top tip creators will have a ranking. We'll build a ranking system around that. Sam, you've got some ideas too on like giving people prominence in the feed based on how long they've held the coin or how much of the coin they have.
Look, in the end of the day, like if you think about how feeds are currently ranked, right? There's three ways to think about feed ranking, right? One way to think about feed ranking is you basically say, I'm going to just tune it myself, right? Like I'm going to set it how I want. I want more of this. I want less of this. Candidly, like a traditional follow model, right? Where I go click on people, that's effectively like I choose, right? The other is like algorithmic choice, right? Like, which is opaque. That's kind of the TikTok version of the world. You say like, yeah, you can kind of tell us who you want to follow, but honestly, we don't really care. We're just going to like pick the people you should follow because we know we have an objective function on like engagement, and that's it, right? There's always been discussion of a third way, right? Like, which is like, can you do it based on a meaningful signal outside of those things or a new set of signals, right? And when I think about crypto, like, I don't know the answer exactly how, length of holding expresses seriousness and like how you kind of mix that. Like, there's going to be a bunch of dials, right? which can all be financially driven based on tipping, based on holding, based on all these kind of properties that can demonstrate how much you care about the platform and like what type of person you are and things like that. And like you in some ways just think of it as a whole new set of signals to rank against, which is really compelling and interesting. Now, it's going to be an evolution. It's just when, the medium is the message, is like the Marsh McLuhan, old school version of this, right? And like what you have with an obvious demand for tipping and like these new signals you can use is going to be a new way to think about feed ranking, which will be very interesting.
Yeah, even some people have even thought on our team have suggested being able to pony up a little jelly coin for a creator that you think is going to go viral. I know there's so many things that we can experiment with. I'm most excited about getting the APIs in place so we can start infiltrating the app with little ways for the coin to play in the rankings like Sam was talking about. And, believe me, once we get it in there, we're going to iterate very quickly. That's another nice thing about being early. Like, we don't have to get it right the first time. Like, we're going to play with it a little bit. And then eventually it's going to hopefully, grow to a massive thing that's very simple and it's very simple for lots of people to understand. But we're going to experiment over the next couple of months with ways to utilize the coin to present content in a different way.
We're coming to the end here. This is my final question. Tell me about that roadmap. Obviously, you're saying we're getting this sort of wallet and tipping feature and badge feature soon. What are we to expect over the coming months, years, and then what does the end of the world look like with JellyJelly?
The end of the world looks like 8 billion people on JellyJelly, right? 8 billion plus. Hey, one of the things I love about the coin is it's global. My dream of being able to play with a coin that, where I grew up in Zimbabwe, it's now coming to reality. It's like, I think the longer term play is, think of a new form. Think of what we're doing here, but in short, quick doses. We're doing it with family, friends, people we love, and then we're using a currency around that. Like that, that's not far from what Venmo was, to be honest. Like, actually, the birth of Venmo was around a trust patent that Sam, Cortina, and were involved with, which was about how people could trust each other and share money. Like, we're just doing it in the modern way. I think in the short term, we're going to split it up into phases. Phase one, let's say first quarter, the next 3 months, having a wallet ownership and like having that all in place inside the app so we can start tinkering. Phase two is using our coin to build ranking systems into the app to see if we can encourage creators to join the app and like start making really good content inside the app and also bringing more people into that. And then from there we just build. Like, I think the phase three is just around like how we get more people to just learn about it. Like, all growth mechanisms, like being able to find your friends quickly, being able to present content onto all your other outlets, like all of that sort of good stuff.
Yeah, I'm hoping this is the podcast revolution. We're going to end up.
I love that, the podcast revolution. The podcast revolution. Like,
I'm into it. I mean, like, look, yeah, I want. I'm getting there. I'm trying to use it, which is super fun. I mean, it's clearly. I think we have a great media format with like deep, important. I think it's an innovation, right, in format that matters. I just feel like I do a lot of podcasts these days, especially this week, and it's so much easier to have a conversation to figure something out, to get content from that, than it is to like monologue. Monologuing is super hard. And so like, I just think this is the next thing, especially as honestly, people are so sick of filters and perfection. They just want content. They want something unique. They want something they haven't seen before. And like, I think this is like how humans do it, is through conversation.
Ryan, maybe I can hold you to it. Before we make the sort of first crypto integration announcement, maybe you, Sam, and I could just cut a couple jellies.
Yeah, I'm down to hop on JellyJelly at some point. Yeah, the app is called JellyJelly, but the like short form content is called A Jelly, right?
Yep, you got it. On JellyJelly, you make a jelly. That's it.
Awesome. Iqram, Sam, thank you so much for joining me. This was a lovely conversation.
Hey, thanks, Ryan.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.